Few people know this, but Brazil once had a woman who defied every rule of her time to fight for her country as independence. Her name was Maria de Jesus, and her story sounds like something straight out of a movie. Born in 1792, in the countryside of Bahia, Maria grew up in a strictly patriarchal society, where women were expected to stay at home. But she never fit into that mold. Strong, skilled with weapons, and determined, she refused to remain on the sidelines while Brazil was fighting for freedom. In 1822, during the battles for independence, Maria made a decision that would change her life. She cut her hair short, disguised herself in men's clothing, and enlisted in the army under the name Soldier Medeiros. Not even her father's strong opposition could stop her courage. He actually tried to prevent her from leaving home, but she was resolute. "Father, I'm going," she said, "and there's nothing you can do to stop me." And he couldn't. She left. Soon after, she joined a group of rebel soldiers, led by General Felix Bog, who were preparing to take back the city of Bahia from the Portuguese. The general welcomed the young man into his troop, and they set out on their mission. On the battlefield, Maria quickly stood out. She was fearless, disciplined, and an excellent sharpshooter. Some say she inherited these skills from her mother, who had to defend herself against indigenous people when she lived in the northeast of Brazil. Whatever the case, these qualities made her one of the best soldiers in the army, perhaps the best. She stood out so much that she was promoted to the rank of sergeant shortly after joining the fight for Brazilian independence. But it wasn't all easy. According to reports, during one of the clashes, her horse was shot out from under her. Calmly, she took another one and continued to fight until victory. Another time, she saved the life of a superior officer who had been taken prisoner by the Portuguese. Disguised as a woman, she infiltrated the Portuguese headquarters and freed the captive. All the while, no one knew that Sergeant Medeiros was actually Maria, a young woman who had overcome countless obstacles to fight for her country. However, her secret didn't last long. Soon, everyone knew about the courageous sergeant, who was actually a woman. When that happened, everyone thought Maria would be punished, or at least expelled from the army. But the opposite happened. She earned everyone's respect, including that of her father, who was initially against her participation in the war. Even foreign officers praised her courage. An Austrian military man, Joseph von Ficker, wrote in his diary, "I saw a Brazilian officer who had previously been a hatter in the service of the king, now a prisoner of war, who told me that there was a brave girl who disguised herself as a man and served as a soldier. He also told me that she was a sharpshooter without equal." After the war, when Emperor Pedro I learned about the case of the courageous woman soldier, he decided to decorate her personally. In 1823, he summoned Maria to his palace in Petrópolis and awarded her the Imperial Order of the Cross, a high military decoration reserved for those who distinguished themselves in battle. At the ceremony, Pedro I told her, "You have rendered the most brilliant services to the independence of Brazil. You have acquired the admiration of our army and the gratitude of the nation. Wear this insignia with pride, soldier. It is a well-deserved honor." After the ceremony, she returned to her post. She did not want privilege. All she wanted was to continue serving her country. However, soon after, the emperor promoted her to the rank of second lieutenant, acknowledging her courage and dedication. In total, she received 5 medals for her participation in the war. The news of her heroism spread throughout Brazil. People from all over the country wanted to meet the brave woman who had broken all the molds. Although illiterate, she became a kind of folk hero, appearing in paintings, sculptures, poems, and stories. But despite the fame, she remained humble and dedicated to her duties. After the war, she stayed in the army and became a career officer, fighting against indigenous peoples in the Brazilian interior. It was a controversial chapter in Brazilian history, marked by violence and disputes over land. But whatever the mission, Maria carried out her orders with professionalism. Around 1840, when she was 48 years old, she was transferred to the northeast of Brazil, where she spent the rest of her career. She died on December 2, 1850, at the age of 58, without seeing her name written in golden letters in the history books. She passed away believing she had done her duty, and that was enough. But fortunately, her memory has endured over time. Today, we remember her as the first woman to join the Brazilian Armed Forces. Her story is a source of inspiration for generations of Brazilians. Her story is especially relevant today, when women are still fighting for equality and recognition in a world dominated by men. Maria showed that women can be just as brave and competent as men, breaking down barriers and paving the way for future generations. For example, she inspired Jaciara de Osis, a woman who enlisted in the army in 1935, overcoming racial prejudice. Rosemary de Oliveira, who was the first woman to graduate from the military academy of Agolas Negras in 1952. Without Maria Quitéria, their stories might have been very different. Although Maria's story is relatively unknown outside of Brazil, her legacy lives on in the hearts of Brazilians. Every year, on November 15th, the anniversary of her death, people gather at her tomb to pay homage to the woman who dared to defy the conventions of her time. She is a timeless example of courage, determination, and love for one's country. Now I'll ask you, did you already know about Maria? What do you think of her story? And would you like to know more stories like hers? Tell us in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel, where we bring you stories that change the course of history, but you probably haven't heard of them. We'll be back soon with a new video. Take care. Here's a bonus fact about Maria that didn't fit into the script. When she enlisted in the army, she used the name Soldier Medeiros because she admired the leader of a local militia group called José Joaquim de Maria. He was a key figure in the independence movement in Bahia, so she chose that name to honor him. He must have been proud to know that a fellow Bahian was fighting alongside him for their homeland. Now I'll ask you, do you know any other inspiring stories of women who fought for their country? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to leave your thumbs up and share this video. See you next time.